Mike here, Cubby's Country Life. I bought this pressure washer quite a few years ago, and it had sat around and got old fuel in it, so the carburetor was no good. So every once in a while it will start, but you know what? I was like, well, if I'm going to use this thing, I might as well just put a carburetor on it. So we're going to see about changing this carburetor over. It should be no problem. I got a carburetor off Amazon, and like, really? You can buy a carburetor for this engine for $22. It's not even worth trying to fight with it for that. And the carburetor's made out of plastic. So let's just pop this cover off. We'll take the air filter housing off, and then we'll take the carb off. Next step, there's a slotted screw here. We just got to undo that, and then we'll be able to see what's underneath. So it looks pretty simple. Just got a spring and a little push rod here that goes to the governor. And then there's a bunch of Phillips screws in there. And, oh, okay. Well, that looks okay. But we're just gonna take this carb off. And probably gotta take this unit off here. So it looks like all I gotta do is disconnect that, undo the tank mounts, and like a bolt there and a bolt here, and then this whole unit should come off. So I took these two bolts out. Keep in mind that there's gasoline in here. It's very volatile. Like, you don't want to have that thing blow up in your face on you, because that would be bad news. So we're going to see if we can weasel this out. I might have to just pull this top cover off. That way I can undo the little push rod there, because these are just plastic. It's plastic. It's going to bust. So let's do that. 10 millimeter screw here, 10 mil, a couple small screws. We'll see if we can just get this thing out that way. You know what? With a little bit of finesse, we can just undo those Phillips screws, and then the carburetor the tank might fall off, and then we can just rotate the carb and it'll pop right off. Okay, we got the tank off. Take your plastic carburetor, and we should just be able to just gently rotate, and it will pop right off. Have a look at the gasket and the pickup tube. There's a pickup screen there. So hopefully I bought the right carburetor for this thing. Guess we'll find out. Here's the new carburetor. It's just plastic. Tank. The kit comes with a spark plug and an air filter and some screws. So we're gonna rotate this on, and then we're gonna put the tank back on. But first we'll match up the gasket to make sure we got the right gasket for it. I found one problem with it. This hole here was actually too small. So I took a little drill bit and I just twirled it around in my fingers. Don't use an actual drill. And just open up the plastic. We'll see if it fits. And if it fits, then we can install it onto the tank. Okay, so I drilled out this hole 3 sizes bigger than it came with, and then it fit on. Now I'm going to put the tank back on, and then they give you a really flimsy rubber gasket. So we're going to try gently put that on. Ideally, I think maybe pulling the cover off probably would have been the best way, because I just moved this out of the way too. Not ideal. I'll just bend it back. But so I kind of skipped a couple steps here, but we're going to put the tank back on, and then see if it runs. We'll put this new spark plug in it. So I gently weaseled the carburetor back on. I put the tank bolt in to hold it there. And then I'm just gently adjusting my gasket as I go. And then I'll put the screws in. But I need 2 hands for this. So we'll put the screws in and go from there. I'm putting the old screws back in because it just doesn't seem quite right. So I'm not using the ones that were in there. I'm going to install another one. put the old screws in. Okay, so I got the screws back in, and then I just tightened this bolt here. I put the tank bolt back in. That'll put that back in its spot. So just remember, it's very light stuff we're working here, so you got to be careful that you don't strip any bolts. So, gotta find my 10mm back. Okay, here we go. Let's tighten that up. Yes, I'm using longer than required equipment. Okay, good. Now, don't forget that there's a spring here. And the spring is pretty small. So, we're going to hook the spring up. Back up to this carb. If I can get it in there. Come on. There we go. And then we're going to hook the other spring back up to where that one was. Okay. Now we're just going to change the spark plug. Shouldn't be rocket science. Huh. That spark plug, I guess I unloosened it before. I haven't played with this machine for a while. So we're gonna... What's going on here? I'm missing some stuff. Okay. Alright, we tightened up the spark plug. Put the wire back on. Air filter. Nothing even wrong with this air filter, really. Looks pretty clean. I'll just reuse it. I'll use that air filter for another machine. Put that on there. Sometimes, there we go. Or aftermarket carburetor, sometimes fitment may be required. Tighten down the screw again. Okay. Prime this thing. Make sure it's in the turtle zone. So, never assume you know what you're doing. My carburetor didn't work because didn't realize there was 2 gaskets on the old one. So, let's try it again. Well, it starts-ish. Wow, this thing still doesn't like me. There we go. Well, I think we got her figured, folks. Never assume. I thought it was a bad primer bulb, so I changed it out with the spare bulb they gave you. But it was actually because they gave you 2 gaskets. I thought originally it was supposed to be for 2 different kinds of tanks or something. But maybe not. I checked my old carb and sure enough, had a gasket there and a second one underneath it. Thanks for watching, folks. Even professionals make mistakes. You're watching Carby's Country Life. See you on the next one.